Why did I meet these two guys in particular? Why doesn't everything in life coincide as it should? Mutual and forever. I was working at the market as an ordinary household goods salesman. A guy came by often. He was small, a head shorter and thinner than me. For a whole month, he walked around buying, smiling, and being polite. Then he started winking at everything. Soon he started giving compliments and we started chatting. His name is Nikolai. I told him that I loved someone else, and I didn't want to be rude to him. He is the boss's client and buys his goods. I have no right to offend him. But he started stopping by every day, or even several times a day. He started saying he was in love and couldn't help himself. He offered to walk me home after work. I refused, of course. I started behaving less politely, answering him quickly and loudly all the time, to which he just became even more obtrusive. Then he finally came to his senses and said, "Let's just have a nice conversation. I won't talk to you about love anymore." I agreed. He suddenly disappeared for a week or so. He came back again, but with a chocolate bar. I did not accept it, but he left it anyway. He said it meant nothing, just chocolate. He stood there and suddenly blurted out, "Marry me?" I told him I loved someone else and had long regretted ever being in contact with him at all. He squatted down, covered his eyes with his hands, and started shaking his head like he was suffering. Suddenly he jumped up abruptly and said, "I can't do this. I'll get off right away. Just tell me that I disgust you." And I repeated it all loudly, clearly, and angrily. He ran right out of the store and disappeared for a month. I even thought he had gotten away from me. Suddenly he comes back and says, "You may think I'm stupid, but I'm a good person. I just fell in love and I do not know how to stop it. Even though you sent me away, I get it. You have someone else. I'll just walk past to the next apartment and say hello, and that's it. I'm sorry I can't forget you. Don't be angry, please. But if you have a fight with your boyfriend one day, I'll always be there for you. Always ready to marry you." So he walked by, winking at everything. I was seeing another guy, though I was very much in love, blindly one might even say. My beloved Mishka, though I didn't know him well, walked me home. We were in the same company and walked together, but for some reason, we didn't communicate much. I knew he had 3 brothers, a sister, and parents. He lived with his 2 brothers in a 2-room apartment. In one room he shared with the youngest, and in the other room his brother lived with his wife and 2 children. I also knew where he worked and had seen his passport. I was head over heels in love, but couldn't say much about him. He behaved selfishly, you could even say self-loving. Love is complicated, what can you do? But he was very jealous. Once I wanted to tell him about Nicholas, but he sharply cut me off and said he didn't want to know about my suitors. He made it seem like it was my fault, and it made me feel like a fallen woman. So I didn't tell him anything else. Time passed, and Mishka decided to invite me to his birthday party at his apartment. He wanted to introduce me to his relatives, who had been asking about me for a long time. I said yes, and he picked me up and we went to their place together. He introduced me to his married brother, and the youngest one, who happened to be a karate coach, hadn't come home from training yet. They put me in an armchair and turned on the TV. They didn't even let me help set the table because I was such an important guest to them. While everyone was busy in the other room, the youngest brother came home from work. And what do you think? While he was taking off his shoes, I did not understand it yet, his head was down. I was sitting there looking out into the hallway from my room. He lifted his face and we both hovered for a while, looking at each other. It was the same Nicholas who was in love with me. He slowly began to approach, saying quietly, "I don't get it, what are you doing here? My brother's girlfriend is supposed to come today." He fell silent and then said quietly, "I got it." He turned around, picked up his shoes and barefooted out the door, slamming loudly. Mishka looked out of the kitchen and asked me, "Who is that?" "Kolka, why did he leave?" I said I didn't know, I must have forgotten something. It made me feel sick to my stomach. Such a strange coincidence. There are 60,000 people living in the city, and I got these 2 at the same time. I don't believe it. I didn't say anything to Mishka, of course. And Kolka, as it turned out later, didn't say anything either. Then he came into my office. It pained me to even look at his grief. The poor man was suffering so much. Mishka would have loved me so much. Then, after a while, Mishka married someone else. Can you imagine? Secretly from me? Can you imagine? I found out from an acquaintance purely by chance. I decided to buy a swimsuit in her department, and she must have told me without a second thought that Mishka got married. She added that she had been to his wedding a week before. And I thought I was still dating him. How could that be? I suffered terribly. There is no such word. I suffered, and I decided to leave the city and move to my family in another region, urgently. I was walking along the sidewalk, shopping for the road, when suddenly a car stopped in the middle of the road and Kolka jumped out. He ran towards me, very happy, and started saying that he missed me. He offered me a ride home. I went with him. We stopped by the house and he said, "Why am I worse than him? Marry me. I love you." I said, "He's your brother." I slept with him. If anything, I said I was leaving in 3 days for another city. I can't stay here and I hate all men. Kolka jumped on me and started kissing me. You could even say we fought. I fought back. But he still reached my lips. He urged me not to leave. He asked me to marry him again. I left for another country though. Mishka called me. My mother gave him my number. I didn't want to talk to him. I suffered for a long time. Sometimes I think of Nikolai. I know he got married, not right away, but 5 years later. But still, it's such a shame. Why didn't I meet Nikolai? Or is love not forever anyway? Would I have fallen out of love like his brother? Comments. Federica, it seems strange that I didn't want Nikolai at all, and now I'm hurt that he got married. Or would it have been easier for me if he had kept chasing me and stayed single? And Mishka as a man acted very dishonestly. Not because he didn't choose me in the end. Life is life. But because I thought we were dating after he got married. No decent man would let that happen and permanently shut down the previous relationship, whatever it was. Arthur, forget this family, it's not yours. You have gone to another country, a new place, a new life. Everything will work out for you. Your man will not let you go, and will truly love you, you will see. Oleg, 2 acrobat brothers and the author in this circus. Nikolai needed me as much as his brother. You can see by the way he took care of me. Someone who truly loves you will not brazenly give up when rejected. The author never regrets anything. Federica, maybe both really did have a cheeky laugh over the girl, each in their own way.